Well, hello, my spooky friends. Today we're going to be talking about a hospital ghost girl and what could have been an angel sent to test a priest and a slipper that just goes flying across the room. I hope you like true ghost stories because I've got some great ones sent in by you, my subscribers. Okay, it is finally March. It's not warm yet, but it's not freezing, so I'm good with it. I'm good. Let's just keep everything calm. I hope you had a great week last week, and now you're all psyched up for some ghost stories. It's late. It's just me and Scully. This is what we do. Say hello, Scully. Did you hear that? I tell you all the time you've got to speak up. Oh, he can be quite loud. But let's get on with the stories. I'm going to start with this one by Heather Pesterfield, and this one is about a premonition. I had a premonition that my father would pass when I got pregnant for the second time, and unfortunately, this came true. I am so sorry. That's terrible. Then it must have been a day or two after I turned round and saw him sitting on the sofa with my son and then husband. I turned away and he was gone. So I guess he was saying goodbye to me. Well, Heather, I think he was. And I've said this before. Sometimes we get these premonitions and it's terrifying, but yet it kind of gives us a heads up. If it comes to pass, it's not as much of a shock. Sometimes I think it's just the way the universe communicates with us so that we don't have as much trauma. Does that make sense? That's my opinion anyway. If it's something that we can stop, as you'll see in another story, that's great. Sometimes it is a warning, and sometimes it's just you've got this. Thank you for sending that one in. Now, our next story is, I don't know, would you call it an angelic test? I think I would. You be the judge. This one comes by Anna Abramson. I have one for you. I clean a church, and this homeless lady pulled into the parking lot in a cloud of blue smoke. She wanted to speak to the priest, not for me to question, and the office was open. He was in, so I let her go in. She left, having been turned away after asking for a quart of oil. Now I'm just going to stop and say I've got a problem with this on so many levels. I was washing windows, never saw her car leave. It just wasn't there. Now the priest was hopping mad that I allowed her in to talk to her. I don't know why. Again, got a major problem with this. I don't know why, but I just said, how do you know God didn't send her to test you to see how you would react? As neither of us saw the car disappear, but it did. The pastor was my age. Maybe that's why I spoke out. To my surprise, he used this in his homily on Sunday. It was fitting. Yeah, I'm not even going to touch all the reasons that this disturbs me, but certainly I feel like when somebody needs help, just a quart of oil, that's not asking for much. And I think you were right, Anna, to call him out on it. I mean, isn't that what the church is supposed to be there for? Anyway, I don't know the circumstances, but I am saying this. It would not surprise me at all if God sent an angel in that form to test him. We had a story about that a couple months ago about what could have been a test. This lady passed it. I think the priest may not have fared so well in that test. And I'm glad you said something, Anna. Now, this one comes from Courtney Go3. My best friend told me that when she had her son and was in the ICU for complications, they kept pumping her with morphine. Her parents were there with her, and at one point she looked at the wall in front of her, past her parents, and saw a very long hallway. There were people she didn't know standing around waiting in that hall. Then a young dark haired girl hopped over to her bed, and as she approached, my friend saw she didn't have a face. Oh, that's horrifying. The little girl grabbed the bar on her bedside and dunked down like she was playing peekaboo. When my friend leaned over to see the girl under her bed, she was gone. It may have been the meds that made her see that, but I honestly don't think that is all it was. Well, I'll tell you, Courtney, I don't either. And I understand morphine can make you make you feel strange. I don't see, honestly, a whole lot of hallucinations on morphine. It is possible, I suppose. Um, in that twilight, though, in that area, that twilight that we talk about, that is where the veil is very thin. Now, who was this girl without a face? I don't know. I'd be interested to know if any of the doctors, nurses, or any hospital staff had ever seen a little girl in there. Weird things happen at hospitals. And could it be the morphine? Sure, it could. But just based on all of the stuff that we've heard and so many similar stories to ghosts without faces and little children in the hospital, you got to say, it could have been a ghost. What do y'all think? Okay, our next story is an email sent to me by Cassie Kyle. So I was in my room with my sister and we were playing video games. There were two beds in my room because sometimes she slept in my room, and when we were up late playing video games and stuff, she didn't want to go back downstairs to her room. So I was sitting in my bed and she was sitting in her bed, and I have a bit of a messy room. My bare feet slippers, they look like bear paws with claws. Girl, I had those same slippers. I love fun slippers, don't y'all? I don't know. When it comes to slippers, I don't have to be elegant. I love the crazy ones. But that's just me. Okay, so her slippers were on the floor next to my bed on the left. We had the fan running because we don't have AC, and it was the dead of summer. This was like maybe 2004 or 2005 ish. So we were both on summer break. We're sitting there playing video games, and all of a sudden, one of my slippers flies up off the floor and knocks something off my dresser before falling back onto the floor. I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but my sister got the whole full frontal haunting that night. She saw the whole thing and got freaked out. Well, I imagine I came up with this half baked excuse that, the cord to the fan must have had a bare spot and the electricity touched the slipper or something like that. I knew that was a lie because there was no bare spot in that cord. I check all my cords regularly because I am deathly afraid of electrical fires. Anyway, that settled her down so we could get some sleep. But I don't think I slept, and I still don't feel comfortable in that room to this day. I have some more stories, and I'll include them in a future email when I have more time to write them down. Anyway, I love your content, Max. So I don't know if this is Cassie or Max, but thank you for this story. Now, if you have ever had something fly across the room that you didn't expect, yes, it is quite terrifying. And I've seen it happen on more than one occasion. And that is what I told my kids, like, when they were smaller and things would happen, it'd be like, "Oh, you make up an explanation, okay? It's one of those things you don't wanna scare people." But yeah, there's no way it was electricity and a slipper. But I'm interested to know if anything else ever happened in that room. Did you feel any cold spots, or is there any history to that house? Or, I mean, was it just a ghost walking by on their way to the afterlife and they're just like passing through your room, kick a slipper, as they're going? I don't know. I do not know what happens in the afterlife. So, maybe somebody was just, kind of like you kick rocks going down the road. Maybe somebody was just passing through. If you've never had another thing happen, then maybe that was it. Or maybe not. You said you've got some other ghost stories, so make sure you send them in. I will read them out. And I have another email. Now, this one comes from Gwen Allison, and this is a premonition, but listen close because this one is something that could be controlled. Gwen says, I'm in my 70s now, and this happened when I was a kid. We live in Texas, but my grandma, my father's mother, lived in Mississippi. I loved my grandma so much, and I would spend the entire summer every year with her. My grandfather had passed of a heart attack several years earlier, so it was just us girls. This one year, my younger brother, who was 4 years younger than me, decided that he wanted to stay with us too. We had been there for a couple of weeks and we had the most horrible thunderstorm you could imagine. It sounded like the world was ending. It was so bad. It knocked the lights out, but my grandmother's stove was gas, so we could still cook our breakfast that morning. But very early, before we had gotten up, the phone started ringing. It was my dad calling. He told my grandma that he was coming to get my brother and to not let my brother out of the house until my father got there and pack his bags for him to go home. He said he will explain when he gets there. Well, it was a 6 hour drive, so we were going to have our work cut out for us keeping my brother inside for 6 hours. So, 6 hours later, my dad showed up. My dad told my grandma that his father came to him in a dream last night and told my dad to go pick up your boy first thing in the morning and to tell your mom not to let the boy out of the house. So, my dad was a strong believer in family that has passed watching over us, and he didn't second guess it at all. He got there, drank a cup of coffee, got my brother, and left. He had to hurry home because he had taken the day off work to come get my brother. The next day, the men from the electric company were replacing the lines that had been taken down by the storm. One of the men came up to the house and told my grandmother there was a line down in a spot in the yard where there were kids' toys. He told her not to let the kids go out and play there because the line was still live and they had to go cut power before they could fix it. If my dad hadn't come to pick my brother up, he most definitely would have gone out there to play with his toys and would have been killed. Love your show. Give Scully a peck on the cheek from me. Keep up the good work. Well, Gwen, I'll tell you what, I've raised two boys and I know exactly what you're talking about. Keeping them corralled, keeping them in the house. Well, not so much anymore with the internet. But back in those days, absolutely. I mean, I was a girl and you couldn't keep me in the house. I can imagine. And the fact that your dad had a dream from his dad, yeah, anytime that you have something like that happen, you have to I mean, most reasonable people would at least very seriously consider it because how often does that happen? And it probably was the toys or, there's no telling. Yeah, boys. Like I said, I've raised two of them. There is nothing that a boy will not get into. So I totally believe your story. Wow, that's incredible. Have any of you ever had anything like that happen? I would love to hear it. An angelic visit or something that you couldn't explain, ghost stories, even glitch in the matrix. We love them all. I'm going to leave a link in the description below. If you have a story and you want to email me, please, please send it. I love to tell your stories. Okay, that's it for this time. Scully, what did you think? Yeah, yeah, I think so. He agrees. He thinks it was the grandfather really coming in a dream. Have you ever done that? I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know what you've done, Scully. Anyway, I hope you all have a great week. Hope you enjoyed these stories. I appreciate you so much. And if you are not subscribed, what are you doing? Please subscribe. I know you got a story out there. Anyway, have a great week. Whatever you do, just stay spooky. Bye bye.